What is up, guys? Pie Muffin here. We're going to be talking about Dragon Ball Super Episode 125. I don't know if this is really a review or just kind of like we're chilling and talking about it, but I absolutely love this episode. I've seen like 10% of people saying it just felt like the Broly movie and they didn't like it, but regardless of if it felt that way, I thought this episode was great. So, obviously, Gohan is out, so now we've just got 17 versus Toppo and Goku and Vegeta versus Jiren. We got Goku and Vegeta doing this. You know, I get that they have to show Goku and Vegeta fighting Jiren every episode that's not focused on that fight, just to kind of show us, okay, these guys are still fighting. But they're really not accomplishing anything, so I feel like a little less screen time could have been put on that. Other than that, though, no problems with this episode. I love the beginning where we had 17 and Toppo going at it. It's kind of the whole thing where 17 is realizing he is not a match for Toppo on his own. So what he's doing is he's just running around, constantly looking at the pillar going down. He's like, okay, there's about 6 minutes left. I just need to keep dodging until time runs out. And after a while, Toppo starts to kind of, I guess, catch on to this. And the people in the stands are realizing that too. 18 was able to figure out what 17's doing. He explains, yeah, he doesn't need to beat Toppo. He just needs to survive so we have more people than they do when the timer runs out. I guess with the whole Jiren situation, you know, it was kind of cool to see Goku get Jiren in a lock and then Vegeta use Final Flash, but that didn't matter because Jiren used his friggin' Sharingan eye powers to basically deflect the blast. Moving back to the 17 fight, we basically had that continue for a little bit, and then there was a beam struggle, which was really cool to see. We see 17 firing a giant blue ki blast. I mean, before that, he was just firing a bunch of regular ki blasts, just trying to keep Toppo away. But Toppo found an opening and kind of got in close. So they have this beam struggle going on. Toppo's got his most powerful blast against 17's. And Toppo is more powerful than 17, so he's pushing 17's blast back. But then, kind of in old fashion of Dragon Ball Z, kind of like how it happened with the Cell games, where Gohan and Cell were doing a Kamehameha clash, and then Gohan had help from behind with Vegeta and the other Z fighters. It was the same kind of thing with 17, but Frieza came in from behind and was just constantly blasting Toppo in the back. Clearly it was bothering Toppo, but it wasn't stopping him from firing his ki blast at 17. And then after a while of punishment from Frieza decides to do a giant blast at Toppo. And when that hits him, that's what really kind of seals the deal. And 17's blast overtakes Toppo as Frieza's blast hits him from behind. And then, at this point, you think, okay, Toppo's probably done. He goes blasted to the other side of the map. Frieza goes over there, he sees Toppo on the ground. But then, what we see after that is Toppo gets basically filled in this God of Destruction energy. He powers up, and then we get this whole explanation that obviously, most of us already knew that Toppo was a candidate to become God of Destruction, but apparently he had trained with Marcerita, the Angel of Universe 11, to actually harness this energy. And what I really found interesting was that once he powered up into this form, Jiren said something along the lines of, so you've made your decision. So that makes me think like maybe there were two options, like either he was going to be all about justice or he was going to become a God of Destruction. It's actually interesting, once he's in that form, he's like, there is no justice or evil, or there is no good and evil, there is only survival and winning. So he started to have the mindset of a God of Destruction. There's no, forgetting about justice and just doing what he has to do to protect his universe. So right after that, Frieza decides to be like, oh, well, you're not such a big deal. I've seen that God of Destruction energy before. Because Toppo does the same God of Destruction blast that little dog servant of Sidra used against him before. So Frieza was like, oh, I'll be able to handle this, no problem. But clearly Frieza didn't get the memo that Gods of Destruction have different levels of power. Just because it's the same attack doesn't mean it's less powerful or the same power. So he tries to block it with one hand. It starts to envelop him, and Frieza just keeps saying, this is nothing, this is nothing. Like, it's like he's trying to convince himself that this blast isn't going to be anything special and that he can stop it. But then he gets enveloped in the entire blast and it just goes kaboom. And after that, it's we're supposed to believe that Frieza's been erased, I guess, because he said Hakai, he said destroy, or destruction, however you want to say it. So we don't see Frieza after that. He's not in the stands, though, so he's not knocked out, but if he had gotten erased, he wouldn't be out there anyway. So after that, Toppo gets to have this awesome battle with 17, and the arena had already cracked in half from Toppo's power, and there are all these different floating platforms from the arena, and that's where basically 17 and Toppo are fighting. They're having this high-speed battle. 17 is mostly dodging. He's trying to get some attacks in when he can, but any blast that hits Toppo is just being instantly incinerated. So clearly, normal energy is not going to be able to do anything about this, but 17 isn't about to back down yet, and he even says, with this much power, there has to be a weakness somewhere. So he's constantly using his fast speed to jump around the little platforms and blast Toppo from different angles, seeing if maybe there's a blind spot that he can exploit. Kind of seeing how Toppo moves and a way to counter that. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like there's going to be any such opening. But they do eventually find out after the debris keeps disappearing from the Hakais, that Toppo, I guess, hasn't really perfected this energy yet, and that it does take time in order for him to use it. So this is kind of 17's opening, but at the same time, Toppo has himself basically surrounded in this God Destruction energy, so any of 17's attacks would just get erased, just like the blast that he was using. And 17 gets pummeled around a bit, and right when he's on the last platform, about to be knocked out, he's trying to think of what to do, and Toppo's going to fire his final Hakai energy to basically destroy 17, knock him out, whatever. Frieza basically throws a rock at Toppo. And here's the thing that kind of, I guess and this has been happening a lot in the spoilers lately. The spoilers for this episode were saying that Frieza and 17 were going to throw rocks at Toppo. This wasn't really they made it seem like Frieza was going to use his telekinetic powers and 17 was going to help with that, but it was really just like one rock. Frieza threw a rock at Toppo's blast and it kind of diminished it a bit. And then Frieza, being up there, was super mad. He decides to power up his supernova technique, which is, what he used to destroy Planet Vegeta. But, he had used it with both hands above his head this time. Kind of like... Cooler used to kind of do stuff like that. Maybe not with both hands, but he could make energy a lot faster than Frieza could. And this was kind of at that kind of speed, even though Cooler's not canon. But, so yeah, he throws that giant blast. Toppo makes a tiny dot, probably the size of like a Nerd's candy. Like one little Nerd's candy. And flicks it at Frieza's blast. It completely destroys it. And then Toppo decides to rush Frieza, beating him into the ground, picks him up, holds him by his face, and that's pretty much it. He basically says to Frieza that he's trash. And honestly, I'm honestly surprised about a lot of this because, obviously Frieza didn't go out, so he's still going to be in the tournament. But it's clear that Toppo doesn't even realize where Frieza is, whether he's out or if he's just on the edge. And clearly we see Frieza's on the edge. But I found it very interesting that they wanted to have Frieza get beaten and get angry so easily because it was like, he's been so calm, so cool and collected. People have loved his character this arc, and now he kind of had like a Frost moment where he was just fueled by rage and was just going to do everything. It seemed like he was going to get knocked out, but maybe they're going to save Frieza for the final fight. Maybe him and Goku will fight Jiren together or something, or who knows how it's going to end up. But after that, what's really funny about that is Toppo kicks Frieza like he's trying to kick him off, and then you see a rock hit Frieza in the head. And my first time watching this episode without the subtitles, I watched it live, I thought Toppo threw a rock to be disrespectful, but it was actually 17 threw a giant piece of the stage. He was trying to hit Toppo, but he's like, oops, I missed. I was trying to hit you with that, which was really funny. And then the episode basically ends with 17 powering up a blast and Toppo powering up a Hakai blast, about to blast each other again. So obviously 17 and Toppo aren't done with each other. Frieza's out for the count, but he's still in the arena just barely. I'm sure they're going to do something where he's going to sneak up in the end and be the reason Toppo gets knocked out. Toppo's going to think that Frieza's out, and Frieza's going to regain some energy within the next, episode, and probably be the reason Toppo goes out. Honestly, I could see this going either way. They might beat Jiren, and Toppo might be the one that they have to deal with. But at the same time, Jiren's stronger than his own god of destruction, so it's really hard to tell how strong Toppo is compared to Jiren. So honestly, either one of them could be there in the end. And for the preview for next week's episode, we obviously just see Vegeta is going to be taking on Toppo. We see a scene where it kind of looks like 17 may get knocked out early next episode. It shows him kind of flying through the air, but that could just be a misdirect. Because if you keep up with the spoilers, you obviously know that episode 127, which will be the week after next episode, is called the final barrier of hope or something. So it may just be something where 17 gets knocked down and Vegeta takes on Toppo. So I think Vegeta may get knocked out next week. I think he may do a good number on Toppo, but I think ultimately he's not going to be able to beat him. But I guess we are going to have to wait and see next week. Anyways, guys, post your comments down below letting me know what you thought of the episode. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and I will see you all next time.